There's been two things that all of you have requested, and we heard you. One was long form content, so welcome to the Lipstick Lesbians YouTube channel. Check. Keep watching. I'm gonna take you through about 95% of a full face of YSL, mainly because there was two really standout products that I was really impressed by that I can't wait to share. Let's get into it, and if you don't wanna miss a beat, you know what you have to do. I have my favorite drink, I have my favorite fans, and I have some of my favorite products, and I have some products that I've just been playing with recently. We got to get introduced to some YSL products I've never tried. This is definitely gonna be the most slept YSL product. It's a lip and cheek balmy tint. It actually lives in the spirit of this world that we're living in right now with all those lip balms, like Summer Fridays lip butter bombs, Nude Sticks launching their butter bombs, Saltaire launching their butter bombs. This is a cheek and lip butter bomb, but less emollient, but super interesting, and we're gonna talk about her. Other products that we received are 1000% in the lip category, like this Rouge Veloute. My Frenchies out there, do not be offended by my pronunciation. I think I should take some French classes. This is like an oil gel lipstick, and we're gonna talk about that too. There are beautiful YSL franchises that are really coming to life, and they've done an amazing job at their relaunches with this new wraparound lettering of branding. It looks very, very, very elevated. So they've just launched most recently the All Hours Concealer to be a companion to the All Hours Foundation. This is the hero foundation in the YSL collection family. And then on the lighter end of the spectrum, lighter, not in shade, lighter in texture consistency, you have this new franchise. In many ways, we have our illuminator and we have these balmy tints in that franchise. This should signal to you more youthful. This should signal in your brain, okay, YSL wants to go super premium, super elevated luxury, possibly targeting a little bit of an older demographic like me. And then we have our more playful products that are the illuminators, these lip and cheek balmy. We're gonna put this all on my face. I'm gonna walk you through what matters, why it matters, and whether or not it might be good for you. I'm gonna throw on the Bare Look tint. This is definitely a darker shade. This is my summer shade. I like to use the lowest coverage possible in summer, so that is why this is something I've personally bought myself, and I have used this product. It is YSL's attempt at the most natural looking skin-like finish with a touch of coverage. This for you is gonna be just a demonstration to start to understand what thin coverage is, what lightweight coverage is. And I'm also just gonna do like this half my face first so you can really start to see it. In person, this is perfect for me in terms of a coverage level that I'm happy with. On camera, I know I wanna add. Why I would wear something like this, this is wonderful, again, daytime, easy, lightweight, breathable. It is not a hyper radiant finish. It is more of a natural skin-like finish. For me today, this new Bare Skin tint is gonna serve much like a primer. Why? Because I'm giving an extra layer of product that's a little darker than my natural skin tone that is also gonna help boost the radiance of the liquid foundation that's gonna go on top. Focus on the aesthetic that you're seeing that's being communicated to you across the screen, so you can really think about whether this is something that's gonna interest you. This is something that is a gorgeous, natural, skin-like product. We're gonna dive into the All Hours. I have layered on this tint, so I don't need a significant amount of product. One pump for me typically would be a little bit soft in terms of coverage, but because I have the tint on, that's gonna be plenty. Luminous matte. How can it be luminous and matte at the same time? They have an infusion of skincare which leaves subtle radiance. In terms of a difference between All Hours and the tint, number one is the rose scent. Explosive, it's gonna come at you. So know that it's fragranced and know that it's made in France. The way that the construction of the foundation is built is really allowing for more of a hydrated look and hydrated finish to come across, even though there's a lot of materials at the beginning that are supposed to flash off to help this dry really fast. I don't even have time to fully sweep it down before the foundation is actually already dried in a way that it's set. This instantaneous set is being driven by the materials right at the jump. Silicone, isododecane, alcohol. So if you are someone who loves that little bit of lifelike glow, not that bone dry matte that Estee Lauder Double Wear gives you, and is okay with a scent of rose on their foundation, luminous matte All Hours with sunscreen is going to be a really hard foundation to beat in this category. really hard. So now that we have our base down, some people also, for example, would take a layer of foundation, I'll show you, and have it be an extra layer of neutralizing coverage.
Can you leave it that way and we can see how it looks?
Of course.
Eye to eye?
Sure. This is an extra layer of coverage. With matte foundations, though, you have to remember, if you're gonna go ahead and take a foundation that has a lot of film pore and a lot of silicone, you may experience some additional dryness here. Like All Hours, for example, Estee Lauder Double Wear, Dior Forever, Shiseido Self-Refreshing Synchro Skin, anything in that arena. If you're gonna do this, understand that if you don't have sufficient moisture on your eye area, it is gonna impact the way that concealer looks. Let's keep going. All Hours, this is a custom tooled, flocked doe foot applicator. We've spoke about this before. Not only do they want to be fancy, but they want to give you this chiseled tip where if you were to go ahead and draw a line, let's pretend like this is like a highlight line. I'm only using this part of the doe foot where I can draw a single line. And then you still have bulk in the reservoir at the tip to go ahead and apply your concealer. It's a multi-use doe foot. The applicator is intentionally built to have this deep, deep reservoir triangle, but to also have this really great line here. We're tapping, remember this is the eye that has no initial laydown. With an All Hours concealer, you're getting the promise of a long wear product. So you're also going to anticipate this drying very, very fast. You saw how easily that pushed into the skin. I'm still getting that really great efficacy in terms of how this is blending into my skin. And I'm also getting coverage. I could add another layer of concealer instead of having one layer of foundation and one layer of concealer. That is always available to you, and you should always start out with less product and add more. It's always easier to add than to subtract. Because the word concealer elicits hiding, I don't love to use it, to be honest. I much prefer calling this a neutralizer, but then you're not gonna know what I'm talking about. So in the spirit of education, we'll keep calling it a concealer, but in your heart, no, you have nothing to hide. This would be the stage where I would go ahead and I would layer on some type of a powder. There is a companion All Hours powder. I don't happen to own the companion All Hours powder. Forgive me. It's a full face of 97% Yves Saint Laurent.
All right, so what are you using now?
Now I'm just using a little bit of NARS Advanced Soft Matte Perfecting Powder. There's literal particles of powder that are designed to soften and blur. Powders are very good at blurring, as are primers. There are blurring powders inside these foundations, folks. I concentrated entirely on my T-zone. This is what you can think about. It's a T, literally across your face. That T-zone, for me, that is usually where the vast majority of my oil production happens, especially in my nose. Just know that if there's a pore there, it means that something needs to evacuate. And usually that's sebum, which is oil, and usually that means that's where your product's gonna break down. So look for the pores, and the reason we minimize or soften pores in the first place and throw a powder on is to really grab onto that oil as it's releasing from the pore. This is a little bit of the Huda Beauty Easy Bake powder. Now, even though I don't have sebaceous glands necessarily in these giant pores under my eyes, I do have a lot of skin that's gonna naturally move when I talk, when I smile. So as a product developer, you're always looking at yourself in the mirror and you're always assessing how your face is moving when you're being expressive. The more wet a product is, whether it's a liquid product that's a foundation or a skin tint or a concealer, it's gonna find its way into those little crevices and creases that your skin is naturally making. When you get Botox, there's no shade here, by the way, fam. What happens is it freezes the ability for those folds to happen. So you're not gonna get these lines that are rapidly forming on my forehead, which then, as my skin settles, I'm gonna be left with those lines. But if I blend the product in, remember I have a powder on, it looks like I've just erased those lines. I haven't erased them. I've just moved the product that's sifted in between the skin crevices. I've just moved it around. It's an optical illusion. There's nothing wrong with having little crevices. Unless someone is within inches of your face, the likelihood of them actually seeing it is very, very, very slim to none. Keep that in mind as you're applying your makeup. And imagine too, if you have a hand mirror, you could just take your hand mirror and put it at about an arm's length. That's where people are gonna be seeing you from. They're not gonna be seeing you like this as you might be looking at yourself. This is really about you. You're in the driver's seat of how you wanna feel and look, not about how other people are perceiving you. We're breaking out the mini clutch, the $68 eyeshadow that shook the internet in a heated debate as to whether or not they were worth it. Well, now you get to see it live. The thing about slurries is that they notoriously go on very, very smooth. In this case, what you're seeing is a crease line of concealer, and this powder that I'm laying down right from the mini clutch in the crease area is actually being grabbed onto the concealer. There's 3 shimmers in here and there's 1 matte. I'm grabbing the matte shade. I would argue this is like a rosy taupe. And you're gonna see what rosy taupe translates onto skin. Your skin tone is gonna affect the way that the eyeshadow looks. If you're darker in skin tone, this is going to be lighter on your skin. In fact, it may look entirely different because of the contrast it creates depending on your own personal skin tone. The most important rule to remember with eyeshadow is that we really do want to find our orbital bone, and sometimes we can just feel for it. So you can literally sit with the one end of your brush and you can literally tap to find where your orbital bone is, and you should know in the back of your mind that you generally don't want to go above where your orbital bone is. So you can even see when you lift your eyes where your orbital bone lives, and you can just marry what I call a windshield wiper motion back and forth, and blend out a product. We're lifting in a way that we create a triangle in the corner of the eye, because remember, it's going to be the optical illusion of an elevated style aesthetic in terms of your eye looking more lifted as well. At this stage, you could easily throw mascara on and be done, but for argument's sake, let's play. We have 3 other shades in this compact. My natural instinct is telling me to go into this lighter pink tone with shimmer, and I would put that on my eyelid. This is a loose brush, so I know it's gonna gently apply. What you want to look for with eyeshadow is their fallout. What's really nice about this slurry and this style of a formulation is that I'm not getting these glitter particles to be falling anywhere on my face. That's very important to me, and that's how you should evaluate all your eyeshadows. If I want to have a more concentrated depth of color, I would get a more dense brush and load her up, like this Half Magic brush. And then I would simply place that pink right on the eyelid. I would add some right there, this area which we call the pop, which is where we concentrate a lot of darkness. Voila, you have this introduction of this really soft, pretty pink shimmer. You could very easily add depth to this eye look. And the way you add depth is the darkest shade that you would have in the palette. If I were to take this very large dome brush, and if I were to go into the eye area, I would find myself in a position maybe of making a mess. So it's not a bad idea to invest in what I like to call these little bullet brushes. So this style of a bullet brush. This happens to be a Sigma brush. It's brush E30. This allows me to gauge more control in terms of the placement of this burgundy tone. Control is your friend only because it's going to allow you to put the product exactly where you want to deposit the depth. Deposit depth. Dense. Now I do have the slightest bit of droppage because of the way that this eyeshadow kind of released, but I know if I get a loose brush, I can just sweep it away with very minimal interruption to the rest of my makeup. And now, if I want to blend, I'm going to go back to the loosest brush. This is the EF2 brush by Makeup by Mario. I'm not loading it with anything. I'm just blending. And I can blend exactly where I want that depth out, so it looks like it belongs there, not like I placed it there. We're building the depth. We're layering down the depth of this plum. And then what's happening is the residue from the pink that I had put on the lid is kind of shimmying and finding its way also here. And there's also shimmer in this deeper plum. So what you should be noticing about these eyeshadows is the fact that they blend very, very easily. Your powder is literally dancing with the other powders you've layered. And if they are well made and they have enough texturizing agents inside of them, the delicate dance that they're doing together will be frictionless. And that is what you are witnessing, a frictionless adaptation of shimmer. The last thing I would need to do is this kind of untouched space at the top. I have 1 shade left in my quad that I've yet to use, which is this lavender shade. I know that if I go in with a dense brush with the lavender shade, that it's gonna be pretty potent. But I also know that I want a little bit of looseness and I have a smaller surface area to cover, so I'm grabbing this brush. The Sigma E33. There she is. Boom.
This is looking fire.
Done. We've layered on these 4 eyeshadows from the quad. It probably took me under 3 minutes to do this look. And the most important thing to understand about this is the smooth nature of the slurry formula is why these sparkles aren't sitting in every single texture line that I have on my eye. They pick just the right type of texturizing agents to give a really smooth lay down and to soften the effect of the texture on the surface of my eye. Even though this is a $68 product, I'm quite happy with the way that this is laying down on my eye, and you should be able to understand with the way that this performed on the surface of my eye, how this may work for you. I know that I could lay down this product on a more mature eye and an eye perhaps with a little bit more texture and skin folds, and I would still yield a similar result in terms of the finish of the way the textures look on skin. There's a few items I don't have. So this is just the Patrick Ta. She's bronzed. Crushliner, waterproof, smooth, propel, repel. The fact that it's waterproof means it's going to stay on pretty viciously, actually. Actually using an eyeliner brush to lay it down. This is a Sigma winged liner brush, E6, so that I can have a bit more control in terms of how I want to shape this liner look. If you want more intensity in terms of how this black is going to look on the eye, you would be better off definitely just doing a direct application. Because I've already drawn my line with my brush, it's a lot easier to go in and trace and get the depth of the tone that I want. Lash Clash, volumizing wire brush. Cone shaped brush, really allowing me to get into the depths of the inner area of the eye, to lift, to make a volumized effect, which means that every time I coat my lash with bulk, the lashes themselves are going to look thicker. In between the lash, they're going to look thicker and more close together. And they're also going to look lengthened and full as I continue to load more bulk on. Let's get in with a little bit of Kylie lip liner. This is the shade Lua. It's going to have a plum tone to it. I will say, as far as wood clench pencils go, I absolutely love the shade assortment of the Kylie lip liners. But in terms of the texture and the formula and the finish, I do still prefer the Makeup Forever. I find more grip to the Makeup Forever, which is interesting because it means it has a little bit more what we would call drag. That drag actually lets you be a little bit more precise. I'm doing a more drastic line because I want the center of my lips to be the freshest in terms of the vibe I'm going for. This will be the last thing I put on, but the type of formula of lipstick you're gonna put on should also dictate the way you should be thinking about your lip liner application. Something that probably hasn't necessarily been full on explained to you, but you've seen it so many times. In this case, this is called a tinted like lip oil balm, basically. You're gonna see the release of the color is gonna be really sheer. The sheerness playing with the contrast of the super matte lip line of the Kylie is what creates a beautiful contrast on lip and makes this lip look special, where I have this like freshness in the center, and then I can even go back in and re-accentuate the lines I want to. These YSL Rouge Veloute tinted lip oil balms, they taste like peach. For what it's worth. And last but not least, let's build our cheek. I want to show you what the texture of this balm looks like. It looks moussey. It's really unexpected. And I want you to see what that mousse looks like when you lay it down. Look what happens when you warm that up. You get the break and you get the shine. These products look like two different products, but they're not. That's the beauty of it. And it's such an amazing feat in terms of the way the waxes melt and just like diffuse into the skin. I'm being really mindful of using my brush, but not loading too much product on. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna directly apply it to my cheek. But look at how pretty this looks. That is just such a fresh cheek look with this texture that is so unique. It's not a stick, it's this balming, melting wax. I'll show you on the other side what it would look like with just finger application. Right underneath the cheekbone, pressing it in, and you'll see that because I used a different tool to apply it, I'm gonna get a slightly different finish. By that tool, I mean my fingers. This is how it looks when you apply with your fingers.
Really nice, both ways.
Beautiful, exactly. I just think that this is such like a slept on product because it's so, so beautiful. It's like a lip butter that goes into a balm. This looks really good on its own as well. This is the illuminator. It's not as special to me as what happens to the texture of the balm. It is a very, very opaque illuminator. So you can see that when it lays down, you're getting an opacity in the shimmer, but it doesn't look like it's over processed, radiant, kind of wet shimmer. It almost even in its own right feels lightweight, and then it blends out really easily because it dries down so quick. It dries down really, really fast without interrupting any of the product around it. Look how natural the illuminator looks. Like it melts into the skin and is meant to be there as a part of your skin versus this like iced out ring of highlight. These are really underrated in the YSL family of products. You're unbelievable. Bam, 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 bam. And that, fam, is about 97% of a full face of YSL. Thankfully, you can find us everywhere now at The Lipstick Lesbians. What are your favorite products? What do you want to know more about? Tell us what you learned and what you'd like to learn next.